Hey everyone. I hope that mic didn't just hurt your ears, but today we are going to make a little Tetra breeding cage that I'm going to be using this season. The only thing is, I haven't really figured out what I'm exactly going to do for this season, so we're just going to have to try to do a little bit of guessing and checking, if you will, throughout the spring and summer. But for now, what I have is I've cut a lot of these little I don't even know what you call them. I think they're like plastic meshes, plastic mesh. People use them to. My friend told me what it was called. It's not crochet. I don't remember what it is, but it is these plastic meshes that you can get at like hobby and craft stores, and they're really good because if you look, they're really, really sort of hard, and so they don't like bend very easily, so they hold their own shape, and craft mesh. Yes, Caroline, thank you for reminding me again. I promise I will always try to remember it for in the future. But thank you for always having my back there. Um, and they're very like if you can see, the fish won't go through, but the eggs will fall down. So the idea is that you'll hold them out like this, and then the fish will be on top, and then they'll spawn. The eggs will drop to the bottom, but the fish can't get down to them. I did this a few years ago in my zebrafish or zebra danio breeding videos, um, which is still on my channel. But overall, today I just wanted to make a much larger one for the tetras that I wanted. Okay, so I noticed that there's a little bit of a crack here, so we're just gonna have to try to put them back together in a way that won't make that crack affect the way the tank is going to go. But I also have some fishing line. Um, and this fishing line is 12-pound fishing line. And you could probably use any size. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a whole box out of it with the bottom, the four sides. And so you guys are welcome to stay with me. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to go ahead and let me know. So this is going to fit a 10-gallon tank. And I've already done, what I've done is gone ahead and measured this full length inside the 10-gallon tank to make sure it'll fit. And not only does it have to fit, but it also has to have like a little bit of room on the side for you to put things down and pull them back up. So overall, like if you get, I've already cut this down, but if you get this from the store, just make sure that it's going to be 20 by 10 inches because the 10-gallon tank itself is 20 by 10. So usually they don't come in 20 by 10. You'd have to cut them out yourself. But at least for this one, as long as it is 20, at least 20 on this long side and 10 on this side, it'll fit the bottom of your 10-gallon perfectly fine. And if you can't find those, you could always just get the 5-gallon tanks and get smaller mesh sizes or these craft meshes. Now, if you'll see, I have two different size meshes. This one's a little bigger than the other one. I don't know which one will be better, but for now, I've used the smaller one on the bottom, and it'll kind of look like I'll try to get this together like that. It's going to be real flimsy while we try to, I don't know, is this sewing with a fishing line? So as I try to sew them together. But once I get them together, they should hold their own shape. And I just want to let you guys know I'm not very good at sewing. I don't really sew in my free time. Is it called sewing? Is there not anything else you have to call it? But this is going to take some time, I guess. Use my scissor. Ooh, cut that off. And if you guys have any questions about what we're doing, or any other questions about fish keeping in general, feel free to put them in the chat. That way I don't have to talk to myself the whole time as I try to work this out. Maybe we should look down a little bit. That way you guys are able to actually see what I'm doing, I think. All right. I really have no idea what I'm doing. I think you just take this and go through like that. And then we get our first one. Probably after the stream in an hour. That was my brother. Wanted me to play video games with him. Do I tell him I'm actually sewing right now? So I think I think I know what I'm gonna do now. Holy crap! You know, I can't believe they don't teach you sewing in high school. Like, why would they? Why would not? Why would they not teach you sewing in high school? Sounds like such a useful thing to do. So what I'm gonna do is you'll see. Try to show you in a way that actually works. But I'm going to just go like one and just kind of go through down the line. But in the very beginning, I'm going to tie these two together so I'm not like fiddling with it for the entire time. Except I really have no idea how to sew. Hi, first time here, not even sure how this showed up on my feed. Well, I would welcome. I would say thank you for dropping by. This is a channel for fish, and you know I might have done some like ants stuff in the past, or so like a PVC flute video that got pretty popular. So you might have been from there, but nowadays we just do aquarium stuff, and I breed mono shrimps, which is probably one of my favorite things to do. But today we're going to be making a Tetra um, breeding cage, and this is going to be from Craft Mesh, Andikin, to hopefully get a little bit of breeding action going on for the rest of the season or the breeding season. You know, where I live, like in the winter, it's super cold. And one of the weirdest things that I haven't really told you guys before is the Amano shrimps don't seem to like winter at all. And what they do is even though you've got, your males and your females in the same tank, the Amano shrimps don't actually become buried. It's a weird problem. And so lately I've just been dealing with the Caridina typus shrimps, aka I think they're called Australian Amano shrimps. But the problem is the Amano shrimps are also the Australian Amano shrimps are also found in the same places that the regular Amano shrimps are. So hold on, let me. So I'm not really sure why they're called Australian Amano shrimps. Maybe they're also found in Australia, perhaps. But overall, okay, so I've just got that first little knot on here, right? You guys see that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the excess off. And so now I have a base to go off of. Like I said, like I was talking about, I really wish they could teach us a little bit of sewing in high school. You know, a lot of times, like people are like, "Oh, that's a girly thing." You know, sewing is a girly thing, but there is nothing manlier than a guy that knows how to sew and can mend his own clothes and make his own Tetra breeding cages. There is nothing manlier than that, guys. And today I just wanted to talk to you not only about this, but also about what I wish to see from this hobby. A lot of times on YouTube, we see a lot of videos talking about the same thing over and over again. They're always talking about, say, let's talk about neon tetras, for example. Neon tetra, soft water. You know, they're one of the most popular fish. They have a very nice glow. And then they talk about their care requirements. Maybe tell you a couple of of little tricks and tips that you can like keep them with, like what kind of fish you can keep them with. But there's very few videos that go in depth about how to breed the neon tetra, even though the neon tetra is like one of the staples of our aquarium hobby. I've seen sort of Mark's Aquatics videos, very, very cool. and and I think there's another guy out there, Keeping Fish Simple, that's bred the neon tetra. But other fish like the cardinal tetra, they're very similar, but the way they breed is a little different. I'll say that for now. And so as I'm doing research and thinking about what I'm doing with my next project, it's almost impossible to find anything on the cardinal tetras online. And so if you have like a everyone talks about breeding neon tetra, but I've never seen it done. Well, Andikin, I get what you mean, and I think there are two YouTubers on YouTube that are pretty good. One of them is called Mark's Aquatics, and if you've never seen Mark's Aquatics, this guy does. I've actually like taken the style of his videos where he just talks and tells you all this information without sort of the bling and the memes and the edits and everything, and it's just like 20 minutes of pure knowledge. And that's what I really like about his channel. He's one of the few people that I actually subscribe to, because like if you notice, like my videos are almost always going to be me rambling, but telling you guys a bunch of information, and that's the type of videos that I like to do and that I like to watch. All right, guys. So I've done a little bit of this now. I'm basically just going in and out and in and out, making circles around here using uh, these little holes. What I noticed is because I have a different size mesh on one side and the other, they don't 100% fit together. So you guys are doing the same thing. Make sure you guys get the same size mesh, and depending on the type of tetra that you want, a smaller mesh or a bigger mesh, depending on what you need. But overall, I'm wondering if I really need to sew together every single hole, or if I can leave maybe like a centimeter of a sort of free space between each hole. That'll make my life a lot easier. I don't even know if I'll be able to do this in an hour. Once this stream ends, I might have to finish it tomorrow. But I think with right now, my German blue rams have been spawning many times now. I think I'm on like my fourth spawn overall, and the male on one of my tanks got ick, and so I'm treating the tank with this new medication, the ICX, that Aquarium Co-op really recommends. And I'm treating the tank at the same time, and he's trying to protect his nest and brood the the babies. And I'm just like, I'm not really sure if I should be dosing this tank with medication while there are babies in here. But it was a choice between, do I just grab the male out and forget about the eggs for now and just wait for the next time? And for now, I went ahead and just kept him in there. He's recovering, which is nice. But one of the things I definitely realize is, if you have fish and ick in one tank and you're trying to go ahead and treat it in that one tank, you better make sure that you don't have a lot of substrate or mulm on the bottom, or plants or everything, because that ICX medication disappears almost within a couple hours of you dosing it. And uh, I don't have the chemical data for it, but I can go ahead and venture and make a guess on why. And what I think is happening is because the medication can bind to many other things in your aquarium, like the bacteria, the other sort of dead, rotting organic matter, or even just the live plants or the things in the substrate, and that gets neutralized so that your actual medication is very, very little. And so I think I've had more success actually removing all the fish from that aquarium and then going ahead and putting them into a quarantine tank or a bucket, and then actually using that uh, to quarantine the fish, because that removes a lot of the other variables that your medication can bind to your, since you only have a bucket and water, and maybe like an air stone or a heater. That way, your medication is put to good use, and we can maintain the concentration of medication in the water. So that really that clears up ick within a couple of days. Whereas I've been dosing the ICAX for almost a week now. I'm down to like half a bottle, and it's not getting any better. It is getting better, but it's getting better very slowly. So I think the next time that my fish have ick, I'm just going to go ahead and use methylene blue in a bucket, and I was going uh, to to remove the eggs themselves, to remove the eggs themselves and hatch them out myself. But the eggs were laid on the substrate, which means that if I tried to remove the eggs, I'd just be digging them into the UNS contra soil. So PL says, may I ask a quick question? How do I deal with a snail overpopulation? Um, Feed less is my number one approach. When you have an overabundance of snails, it means that you are probably feeding a lot more than you need to. And fish don't need to be fed every single day. You can get them, they can survive, with almost a week without food. And I'll be honest, sometimes when I get really busy, I go a couple days without feeding them, and they're perfectly fine. So by feeding less, you're stopping the snails from having that overabundance of food, and therefore they won't really be that that they won't breed as fast, if you will. The second thing that you can do to remove the original snails that are in your tank is just go ahead and put a little piece of vegetable um, onto the bottom of the tank. And depending on what kind of substrate that you have on the bottom of the tank, um, once you put that piece of vegetable down, just go ahead and leave it in there for an hour or so. And then when you come back, put it in a nice dark place to make sure it doesn't, it's not like in the middle, because snails don't really care, because they move so slow. They're kind of in their own little world. But sometimes if you put them in a darker place, the snails will like to go there a little bit better. So then you just remove that vegetable. Once you see that those snails on the vegetable, you can just remove it. Another thing that I found really works really well is if you have flake food, right? Take some of your aquascaping tongs. If you don't have tongs, you could use something like your fingers, and you just take like a whole bunch of food, like actual fish flake food. Take the tongs and just lay them on the substrate. So if you have something like a planted tank substrate, like contrasoil or fluval stratum or ADA Amazonia, this is really easy. So you just lay it on the substrate, right? And then once you're done with that, okay, same sort of concept. You sort of bait the snails over, and they'll come and they'll eat all that flake food. And then you just kind of monitor them. When you see a bunch of them, you just go ahead, scoop up that entire substrate ball, sort of that whole layer of substrate, and then put them into something else. You could scoop it up with like a net. It's probably the best way is with a net, so you don't actually get the water, because if you use your fingers or a cup, the water sort of flows out as you lift your hand up, and that can just release a lot of the snails. But overall, you sort of have to bait and trap them to remove the existing snails, and then in order to stop the snails from breeding so much, you can feed less. Anakin says treating the fish in a separate container is not the best approach. The ick will still be in the existing tank. Yeah, I agree with you. What I meant earlier was when you treat the sick fish in a separate container, you have to remove every single other fish and quarantine that together. So you have to make sure you don't have any more fish in your aquarium. And the ick parasite will die after a couple days without a host. So what you really want to do is, number one, isolate that fish so it doesn't go along and spread more ick parasite to anything else, because the ick parasite is in the water column at a certain part of its life cycle. So you got to make sure you remove all the fish in there. Shrimps, I've left inside the tank before. Didn't have a problem with reinfecting once I put the fish back in and treat them. So it's up to you. If you want to remove the shrimp too, you can do that. But for me, I couldn't really, because the shrimps are everywhere now. But overall, you want to make sure you don't leave any more fish in the tank that has ick. And you don't even you can medicate that tank once or twice, but for me, I just leave that tank alone, no fish whatsoever, in about 2 weeks or so, and I'll just keep the other fish in a quarantine tank. Now you have to be really careful when you're putting things inside a bucket with a heater, because most of the heaters out there, like the Tetra heaters, or the I always forget how to actually say it. It's the Aqueon or Aqueon, probably Aqueon or Aqueon. But either way, that brand, a lot of those cheaper heaters have just glass on the outside, and that glass gets really hot. So I've actually, oh poor fish, but I've actually given my fish a heater burn, just because I didn't really think about that at all. And when I put him back into the tank, I realized he had this big, like, sore looking thing on the side, and I felt really bad because that was something that I did wrong for this fish. And instead of being a good fish husbandry YouTuber, I felt like I let my fish down. It was really kind of sad for me, and it's something that I swore I would never do again. So if you want, you can actually get these heaters that have these plant covers, or these fish covers that have this like ring of plastic grill or mesh on the outside, so that the fish will never ever have that problem. And that male that I said, the German blue ram that had ick, um, the way my tank was set up was the heater was in the back of the tank, hidden from view. And German blue rams, they like their privacy when they're spawning. So what happened was, this German blue ram pair had spawned right next to the heater on the sort of substrate. They dug a little indentation, a little hole in the ground, and they spawned there along the rock and the substrate. The heater was right next to it. And then I started noticing that my male had some heater burns, and I was like, holy crap, what's happening? And I look in the back, and then that's when I realized, oh my God, these guys had already spawned. So one of my other pair had spawned like a couple days ago, and so that was where all my attention went. But I will say, like, if you keep your German blue rams in a tank with other fish, don't expect any babies. Um, I didn't really know the number of days it'll take for the babies to hatch out, but I feel like one of my spawns, they got eaten because the fish didn't think that it was going to be safe enough. So if it was me and I wanted my German blue ram parents to raise the eggs themselves, I would always remove the German blue rams and then have them spawn in their own tank. We talked a lot about ick today. I have a ick medication video, and I think it's a pretty good video. I think I go through the life cycle of the ick parasite before we actually get to talking about the treatment of the ick. And what my recommendation is to use methylene blue. It stains your tank, so you don't want to dose it into the tank. But the methylene blue is very useful, because not only does it kill ick, it also doubles as an antifungal for your fish breeding projects. And so methylene blue can be found like anywhere online. It's a pretty popular medication slash chemical. And like, if you've ever like breed fish, egg layers in particular, all about that methylene blue and the bubbler method of incubating your own eggs. And so some of the later down the line, when I really work out my German blue ram sort of breeding cycles, I'm going to start to let them take care of their own babies. But if I see a problem, I'm going to have to pull them out, and I'm going to be using methylene blue to hatch them out. And currently trying to finish editing my part one of the German Blue Ram series. My German Blue Ram series, I really want to take you guys along for this sort of project instead of like the Amano shrimp, where I just sort of waited and was silent for like a couple months while I was trying to figure out what I was doing. And if you're here from my Amano shrimp breeding series, I just want to say thank you so much for subscribing. Recently, people have been finding me on other forms of social media, and just basically like I could see sort of that Avatar Aquatics has started to gain traction and to start to take hold in sort of other parts of the fish breeding hobby, which is just not it was not something that I thought was going to happen when I first started Avatar Aquatics. Back then we were called Addicted to Nature, and uh, I'm very happy with where I am today. And I can't imagine not doing YouTube anymore. And one of the cool things is like in the beginning, when I saw something cool in my fish room, I would always say like, I would always just be like, oh yeah, that's cool, like that's it. But right now I'm just like, that's cool. I wonder if I can document this and save this footage, because it might be going into a future video or a future sort of series. So yeah, one of the other things is, and look, I finished this whole side now. So went from here all the way here. You can see looks like this. So I've got one side done, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my God, I have a lot more to do. But it's okay. It's okay. This is what is fun for me. If anyone has any sewing tips for me, let me know, because I don't think I'm doing this right. I should have just used hot glue. I have a hot glue gun here, right here, but it's not plugged in. I don't really know if I should use it. I've tried a lot of ways to try and get this Tetra breeding container. Originally, it was just this bottom piece here, and what I had done was I had put some PVC pipes down here straight up at the same height, and I've just gone ahead and rested it on the PVC pipes with a weight to push it down, with some like lead weights to push it down, and I've cut it so that it perfectly fits the bottom of the 10-gallon tank. But somehow my Tetra found a way through to the bottom, and I was very confused because like I didn't see any gaps. But I guess like if you've been keeping fish long enough, you kind of know that there is always going to be a gap that your fish can fit through if you don't plan well enough. So here we are, Tetra breeding cage Mark II, trying to get this to work. All right. Does anyone know how to tie the very end? I don't know how to tie this. I wish they could teach you this at school. I've been saying this like maybe like a million times already. Guys, tell me what your favorite fish is and why. I want you guys to put in the comments what your favorite fish is of all time and why. give it something to talk about. I can go first. My favorite fish is probably the rummy nose Tetra. Um, and I had a very, very sad disaster happen with my rummy nose school. The filter died, and because I was not very attentive of it's not something that you look at every time. Um, Go through, leave a loop, and put needle through loop, and do it several more times. Okay, so go through. So that's the end. Go through. I would never be able to be a surgeon, I just realized. Okay, go through. I'm guessing it's like this. Go through, leave a loop. We'll create a mouse. Go through, leave a loop, put needle through loop, and do it several more times. Thank you, Adam. All right, I think we did it. Okay, go through, leave a loop. So we'll, okay, go through, left a loop. Here's the loop. And then several more times. So go through, put the needle through the loop. I think my mom taught me before, but I don't think it was like when I was like a little boy, and I had not recently, well, for the past like decade, I've never had to do this. You got a smart mom teaching her kids this. All right. How many times do I do it? Is 3 times enough? Is 3 times? Will that be enough? Does that come off? Let's see. Oh my gosh. I think we did it. Wow. Let's see if it works. Did I do it right? Okay, maybe one more time. Because I think the fishing line is a little more is a little more like vulnerable to breaking and sort of loosening than actual like sewing needles. No, not needles. Sewing string. That's what it's called. My mom was a seamstress. Shout out to all the moms out there. I don't know where I will be without my mom. Once. Okay, I think that's maybe one more time then. An hour ago, I had no idea that I was going to be on YouTube getting sewing help from my subscribers. I had no idea that this was going to be a part of my Saturday. So thank you guys for your help. All right, there we go. Okay, we did it, YouTube. We did it. We're going to go ahead and cut this off. Woo, there we go. Now we have a very nice wall. There's no way any fish can fit through that. I don't think. And then the next part that I want to put on is probably this one, right? Or should I put on the other side first? Let's do the other side. Let's get like all 4 of the walls together before we actually do that. Let me scroll through the chat. So this will lock thread down on itself. Okay. Say several just to make sure. Once you have the loop, if you can't time out. Is that a handshake emoji? All right. Thank you guys for your help. We did it. We did it. And now we get to do it again. And I'm gonna end this stream in about 20 some minutes at 11 p.m. So you guys don't have to sit through and watch me do like 10 more of this, and I might not even finish this today. But thank you for your help. What were we talking about before that? What were we talking about? I think we were talking about favorite fish. And from the beginning, I saw the rummy-nosed tetra, and I just fell in love. Like, they're not the flashiest type of fish, right? If you look at a neon tetra or like a guppy or a betta, those are all types of different colors, and they're just very, very flashy fish. And while I do like that, the rummy-nosed tetra it got its own little special place in my heart. I've never seen a tetra school as close together as the rummy-nosed tetra. And if you're looking for something that can go in like a 15 or maybe 10 is like pushing it, but from 10 onwards, like a 15, 20 gallon tank, look into the rummy-nosed tetra. These guys have so much energy. They're just back and forth. I had them in a 20 long, and they just went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And they're very, very good dither fish. And a dither fish is one of those fishes that are just 100% bold into the and super bold, and they'll just stay at the front of the tank and make sure that all your shyer fish, like German blue rams in the very beginning, and a lot of the shrimps and everything, they see that there's a bunch of little fish swimming out in the front. It must be very, very safe for us to come outside and play around. And I'm telling you, those rummy-nosed tetras are my favorite type of fish. I've always wanted to breed them, but like I said, I had them in a tank, and the filter failed, and they sadly perished after the filter failed. And I was just like, I don't really think a failed filter would have killed them if I had found out on time. But the fact of the matter is that those couple of weeks I was very busy with my other stuff that was happening in my life, so I didn't give them the attention that they should deserve. And so I think that was a lesson for myself, to let me know that sometimes fish are best enjoyed at the fish store. If you don't have time or room or the energy to take care of them, don't get them back, because it broke my heart losing like a good 10 of my 12 rummy noses. It was horrible. Thank you, Adam, so much for the donation. I think you are probably the first person to donate to me on a stream before. So thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate it. I really, really do. Sans bois rasbora is a cooler version of the rummy nose. I'm gonna look this up real quick. Sans bois. Oh, okay. So I see that they don't have the black and white sort of pattern on the tail. They just have these two little dots, two red dots, and they look kind of blue, which is really cool. And then they have the sort of orange reddish head. Awesome. Remember me when you're huge. I will, Adam. I will. Thank you so much again for the donation. I don't think I've ever seen a Sabwa rasbora in my fish stores. It's kind of sad. The fish stores around me, they gotta survive, and sometimes when you gotta survive, you gotta sell just the generic popular things. And there's a reason that the fish like guppies and bettas are popular. They can take a beating, they can take maybe 2 beatings, 3 beatings, and still be okay. And a lot of times, most of the people in this hobby are starting out, and I basically just at this point, I get all my fish from online. At this point, and it kind of sucks to have to pay for shipping, but around my area, it works out to pretty much be the same price, if not a little cheaper, if I order from, sites with cheaper shipping like Aquahuna. And recently I did an unboxing video with German blue rams from Aquahuna, and to give you guys an update on that, of the 6 fish that I got from there, no, 2 were male and 4 were females. Um, they were all fine through quarantine. I quarantined them for about 2 weeks, I think, in their own little 10-gallon with nothing else. I didn't really medicate because they looked fine. They didn't have any bacterial things, and I think I might have done like 1 or 2 general cures just in case they had parasites, but I don't remember at this point. And then I put them into their own tanks. The 2 males and 2 of the females paired up, which left me with 2 extra females. And then after like a couple more weeks, one of the males passed away just randomly. I don't really know why. Just gone. Found him vaporized in the morning. He was fine the night before, but so then I had to like 4 females and 1 male. And so I went ahead and traded one of the females with someone around where I lived. So I traded a female, got a male, and so now I'm back to having 2 pairs of German blue rams with an extra female that I think I'm just gonna pamper, um, uh, unless I can find her another mate. But I don't really think I have space for 3 pairs of German blue rams. Um, it wouldn't do them justice to have to cram them into their own little, all of them into one tank. Or I might just try to rehome that last German blue ram, depending on whether I can find some place for her. She's fine now. She's in her own little 10-gallon tank with a couple of glow light tetras. And if you guys are looking into breeding tetras, and which is probably why you clicked on this live stream, but if you guys are looking into to breeding tetras, glow light tetras, let me tell you, super super easy for them to have babies. And they're one of those like introductory tetras, and they're, in my opinion, much hardier than the neon tetra. But so what you'll do to breed the glow light tetras is you collect rainwater. You don't use your tap water, because you really need that really soft, a little bit slightly acidic water that almost all the other tetras need too. But the glow light tetras, you collect rainwater, and you make yourself something like this, and then you put like a layer of peat moss on the bottom. You just let that peat moss sort of make tea, sort of peat moss tea. Let me drink a little bit of water. And once you're done making that peat moss tea, you put the tetras in, and they spawn at first light. So just go ahead, cover up that 10-gallon tank or whatever size you have with newspaper or dark construction paper. Let me see if I have any. I don't have any construction. Ow! I don't have any construction paper, but just cover that up all around, leaving like a tiny window so they can see outside, and just fill it with moss. Put one of these in if you can, and then you will see the eggs on the bottom. Once they pass through, you'll see them on the peat moss. Okay, and the reason why I have that peat moss is so that once you remove the adults the day after, the eggs will sort of put them into that. They'll sort of hide in that peat moss and develop, and that peat moss has all sorts of little microorganisms in it. And so instead of having that bare bottom tank and then feeding the infusoria, the reason why you soak that peat moss for a while is so that those microorganisms can develop. And the eggs hatch within like a day or 2. And then once the eggs hatch, they become wigglers. They'll rest on your glass or on the peat itself. And then once you do that, you're pretty much like, you can start feeding them a little bit more infusoria. You can feed brine shrimp baby brine shrimp once they get a little bit bigger, and then you can bring the tetras up. Are you living in North Carolina? Yes, I am in North Carolina. Are fish not sensitive to the lack of GH and KH in the rainwater? So Wilson, um, for a lot of the South American species, like the cardinal tetras, the rummy nose tetras, the glow light tetras that I was just talking about, and probably even the neon, although the neon tetra has been in captivity for so long at this point that um, that you could probably keep them in a little different water, but those tetras really like that very low GH water. So the hardness is very soft for them, and they really thrive in those little black water habitats where you just basically fill up the entire tank with 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 rainwater. Add a bunch of like driftwood so the tannins make it all dark, and in the beginning I was like, you know, everyone's talking about having clean water, and I sort of equated the dark tea color with dirty water, but that's not the case. The dark tea water is actually just full of tannins, and dirty water is really things that are full of like ammonia or bacteria. Sometimes if you set up a new tank and you don't do it right, you see like big giant bacterial bloom because there's too many nutrients, too much ammonia in the water, and you have to wait a couple of weeks for that to sort of settle down. So the rainwater is actually a really good thing for them. You'll find that if you put your tetras in rainwater, they will breed a lot more often. And in fact, some of the times it's the only way to trigger them to breed. And I talked about Mark's Aquatics. If you like after this channel, after my live stream, or you could watch it during the live stream, but after my live stream, go check out Mark's Aquatics on YouTube. He has tons of fish breeding videos, and he is like one of my role models. No one tell him that, but he is one of those people that I'm just like, this is the reason why people should do YouTube. Just getting all that knowledge out to everyone else. You can also do loop trick on every stitch to make them hold tight. Okay. Yeah, I want this to be able to sort of like move around, so I don't want them too tight. I just want to make sure that the ends here are tight enough so that they don't like come apart, because that'd be the last thing I want to do for this. And sometimes if you go to the store and you look for those, like, what are they called, like the laundry baskets that are made from cloth with like a frame around, that sort of material that's like it's almost like this size of mesh. You could also use that and just use like a PVC sort of frame around it. But for me, like, this is probably the cheaper option. One of the we talked about glow light tetras. We talked about rummy nose, German blue rams. And if you guys like an easy to breed fish, look into the some of the rasboras, like the cherry, not rasboras, some of the barbs, like the cherry barb, or a zebra danio. The zebra danios are one of the coolest fish, not just because it's in the aquarium hobby, but because the zebra danio is what we call a model organism. A lot of biologists are very into studying, the zebra danio, because of their see-through eggs. Their clear eggs make it very easy to look at under the microscope and to observe what's going on. And there are tons and tons of different genetic research papers out there about embryology and genetics that feature the zebra embryo and zebra danio. And because of that, there's a very robust scientific community telling you how to breed the zebra danio, because in the lab, you want the eggs to be fresh, because you want to study from the time of fertilization. So what people do is, like, they'll keep the zebra embryos or zebra danios in the breeding containers in a way so that if you go into lab at a certain amount of time, you turn the lights on and then they start spawning, because the zebra danios spawns at first light. I actually have a series of zebra danios breeding on YouTube. It's one of my earlier videos, and it doesn't get a lot of views, but I remember like the last time somebody put a comment on there was like someone said I had a stutter, and um, I think the reason why I had a stutter that day was because I was very nervous. One of my first videos, I was like not really sure what I was gonna do. But I don't think I have like a problem with stuttering. At least I've never been diagnosed with one. What about pygmy cories? I've had eggs all over my tank, but never hatch. The eggs are usually on spiderwood and pre-filter. Do you have any eggs that never hatch? Make me sort of suspicious. Do you have like nearite snails or something else that lay eggs on like all the surface, like anything like that? I would say most of the people that I've talked to that have cories, the eggs end up hatching, but they just get eaten. So, Adam, if you have nearite snails, what you're likely seeing is these little white ivory dots or nearite snails. If you have these white ivory dots that are kind of spaced out, they're not sort of clumped together at all. They're very spaced out. Those are probably the nearite snail eggs. And the way you're going to be able to tell is the fish eggs when they're fertilized, they're probably almost always going to be this like opaquish, amberish, yellowish color. And with cory eggs, they might be a little more opaque white than amber. But fish eggs, most of the time, they will hatch. They will turn a different color if they're infertile or unfertile. So it'll go from like clear opaquish to white, milky white. And that's when you know it's a dud. Or the third option is they're going to get eaten by another fish. So they either hatch, they are unfertilized, or they are not going to survive because they'll get eaten. Another thing is like if a fish feels comfortable enough to lay eggs, most of the time you have the right water for the fish, and the babies will hatch out. So the reason why they never hatched out is probably because the nearite snails, like you said, need brackish water. Never bred those before? Um, yeah, no, they leave them like kind of spread out onto the glass. You'll often see them on the glass and on your wood. That's where they'll leave them. That's also why I don't have nearite snails. I heard that they're great for algae, but I went ahead and did like amano snails, amano shrimp instead because I didn't want to have to scrape off the eggs every now and then. I'm too lazy for that. And if you're looking into a mono shrimp, I just want to say like those guys, they don't really eat as much algae as you think they will. They're kind of very lazy. They're very very lazy shrimp. And so if you have fish food, if you feed fish food, they're gonna go for that every time. They will get fed off of that fish food, all of that nice like filter gunk or whatever's on the bottom of your tank, and they'll just eat that and they'll say like forget about the algae. We're not going to do that because we have something better to eat. Wilson says, I think they have to be literally starving. Yeah, exactly. So you'd have to like starve your shrimp to get them to eat algae, but I'm not going to do that. I love my amano shrimp. I'm not going to starve them, right? I feed them way more than I should. I will. I feed them way more than I should. Oh, a tip. If you guys are looking to breed amano shrimps and you can rarely ever see them in the tank during the day, at night or right before the lights go off, drop a little bit of food, in like a place that they like to be at, okay? And just let it sink to the bottom. You can use flake food, you can use, algae wafers, whatever. And then you wait like maybe like 10, 15 minutes when the lights actually turn off and the entire room is dark. And then you go with the flashlight and you check. The amano shrimps are almost always going to be huddled around that, like kind of like they're having like a secret night meeting. And then that's when you can net them out. I think if it was me, like, and I was looking to breed a fish or another shrimp that was like I really wanted to breed, I would probably do a less decorated tank because it's a real pain when you're trying to catch like a specific fish from my from my um from my tank, and you basically rip up all your plants, all your decorations or whatever, trying to catch that specific fish. So the next time that I want to condition a fish or to breed a fish, I'm going to make sure that they're in a clear bottom, clear bottom tank, or a bare bottom tank, or something with like gravel. I have a 29 gallon that I use to like condition fish with. Gives them a lot of space and it's very easy to catch. Wilson says, I like it when my Amano shrimp ride each other around the tank. Yeah, the shrimps are they have so much personality. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but like I've sat in front of my tank for so long that at this point I can literally tell which shrimp is which. And so, like, and they all have like, some of them are a little more shy than the others and they'll never come out during feeding time. Others will like not even care. You could be sprinkling fish food on the top and they'll swim into the water column and grab one and retreat. Um, and other ones will like, if you do a water change, they all go crazy, right? There's something does concern me though, because recently I just haven't been able to see my male shrimp in the tank. Um, he used to be pretty active, but he was always a little more scared than my female shrimp, which was a little bigger. Um, but I haven't seen him around in a long time, and I wonder if he's doing okay. Maybe he got vaporized again, just like the other German blue. I hope he didn't get vaporized. Um, but yeah, if I don't see him, I'm gonna have to get another male, guys. We can't not have males in the tank. I have one. I had one male and like four females, 4 or 5 females, I think. When as my brood stock, it would be really really sad for me if I didn't have a male, because then we can get berries, and I don't know if I'll do more Amano shrimps, um, like breeding clutches, because I want to focus on German blue rams and cardinals, but also like whenever my Amano shrimps get buried, I'm just like I don't want to just let them release it into the tank. It's so sad. That's one of the reasons why I stopped keeping guppies, because a lot of times when you're breeding guppies, you have to do a lot of culling or you have to find a lot of homes for these guppies. And I couldn't find enough homes. And I just ended up giving my entire colony away, because I was like, I don't want to cull these fish. I hate culling. Culling is one of those very sad moments where you gotta like get drunk and then you do it or something. I don't know. Okay. Do you guys have any last questions before I end the stream? It's almost 11 o'clock. You guys know it's Saturday, but gotta get some sleep. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more sides to do once I'm done. But just to show you, I'm gonna add these on the side like that. Hey Vincent, how are you doing today? I'm actually about to end the stream, but you can watch the replay if you really want. Oh, and I went fishing today, guys. It was really fun. I caught like 3 fish. One of them was a keeper. If you guys are fishermen, anglers, just know that if you're in a place with like this fish called crappie, Crappie, they're on the banks now. They're spawning. It's spring. They're spawning, and you can go fishing if you want. You gained a new subscriber. Can't wait to see your tanks. Thank you, Adam. Thanks again for the donation. Have a good night, everyone. Eat well, sleep well. Thank you guys so much for coming out.